I'm not the right person to explore, but somebody who's very savvy at running Zoom conferences, and we're developing a whole cadre of people who are very good at that.
Right.
Could take that and run with it.
Well, and, we thought about at our local conference when we did it in person, we actually considered having a big screen and having at least one or two of the presenters come in on that screen. But again, the TAC is always first, it's pricey to do the TAC at a conference, but also it's iffy. And when I'm facilitating an event, I don't need any more iffies. Iffies bother me. They're stressful.
Yeah. Well, and again, I think that's something that venues are going to get much better at marketing.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it needs to happen because you can bring in those big names. You
right.
can, and also people can attend from all over the world. We had people from all over the world attending our conference,
right?
Because they could.
Because they could.
Because they could, or signing up for it. Some of them weren't probably there, but we'll watch the recordings because they're on the other side of the world. But
yeah, no, I just think there's an untapped potential. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
So that's all I've got coming up. I don't have any fancy book conferences or teaching or anything like that. My work schedule for the next 2 weeks is going to be brutal, and then I'm off essentially. I'm still working, but I'm not scheduled for call for 2 weeks. I'm not sure how that worked out, but
shh, don't jinx it.
Oh no, I would change it. I'm getting too old for this.
Well, in November, I'm presenting at the Grant Professionals Association conference again this year. I keep ending up presenting at this thing, and I keep saying, I don't know if I want to do this again next year. And then I keep ponying up and saying, yeah, I'll do something. Let me do something. So I have a fabulous co-presenter, Kim Joyce, who will be presenting with me at this thing, and she's going to be there on site, and I won't. I'll be remoting. So we're going to see how some of this hybrid stuff
works.
Yeah, so
good.
We'll see how some of it works. So yeah.
Well, I did. So, Combat Con was live, but for work reasons, I could not go. And Terry had set up stuff, and I actually did a presentation. She was there in person as the moderator, but it worked very well. I mean, just, I was projected on the big screen and,
nice.
Did my talk. And we didn't have the audience participation while I was talking as much, but we left a good period of time at the end for questions. And then we just had some really great comments and interactions and very pithy questions that were a lot of fun. So.
Yeah, I was talking to one of my writing clients very recently about fight scenes and making sure that the character is capable of handling the weapon, and it doesn't matter what weapon you choose,
right.
As long as you choose a weapon that particular character would be capable of handling, and that you write it well, that you go out and learn the language of it. And she's got the books and all that, but I said, use your mentor texts. Go see how it's done really well, because you don't want to put every detail in. But yeah, so we were having a whole conversation about that. And you always come to the forefront of my brain when I think about that kind of stuff in writing, because of your weaponry and your wounds, talks, and things like that you do. So I always find that really fascinating.
Yeah, I make a study of mayhem as a profession. So.
But but as a profession, you really are usually repairing that, so it's okay. It's good to know, right? It's good to know if somebody gets chopped up with a broadsword. How might
what kind of injury that you have, and how are you going to fix it?
What kind of surgery do you have to do on that? Right? Run through with an epi. Where's it? Epi, yes. Run through with an epi. That's a particular type of wound, and it's going to take a particular type of surgery to fix. So there you go. I don't suppose you see a lot of that in trauma, in the trauma room.
People are cooped up. People are nothing much to do but drink, and you either need to get along better with your family or find better drinking partners.
Well, also, I think some of the social veneer has, people have let it rub off. And,
There's all kinds of reasons.
Yeah.
We've had, to be honest, we've had a lot more penetrating trauma than has been traditional. It's still not the numbers that you get in some other trauma centers, but more than our usual, less than 10, 15%. It's the numbers have climbed up with some rather interesting injuries. I've had a couple of really weird injuries in the last 2 weeks.
Well, see, and here I was making light of the idea, and here you go. It's a real thing.
It's what we do.
Because even if you can't imagine it, it's happening.
Yes.
So let's do a writing update.
Okay.
What you writing? Same thing.
Proud Ways Be Stilled.
Proud Ways Be Stilled. Is that the title?
That's the title. Working
I
title.
don't think you've ever given me a title
That's
before.
the title. It's a quote from Jonah.
Nice.
And I'm up to early January 1862. Trying to put in some very interesting interplay between Henry Wilding and Thomas Dudley. Wilding's an ex-soldier, but has severe PTSD.
Right. So what's your time frame that you're following?
So it's summer or late August, early September 1861 through the end of 1862, very early into 1863. Actually, most of the action takes place by September of 1862. I'm debating whether to go on with... There's some interesting events that occur between 1862 and early 1863 having to do with the final nails in the coffin of any kind of Confederate recognition on the part of Great Britain and the cancellation of several warships that the Confederates had contracted for and then were not built.
Okay.
As a result of the events of the Alabama and the
yeah.
main events that I'm writing about.
Interesting.
But I thought of a very interesting turn that I could use with the person that I have, in my own mind, convinced myself actually was a Confederate spy in the American embassy. That's something that nobody else is really talking about other than
but there was
a couple of
spying
rumors.
going on all over
There
the
was,
place,
but
man.
there are some very specific events that lead me to believe that there was a very specific person high up in the embassy staff who was feeding information to James Bullock, to the Confederate agent, and then he stopped.
Interesting.
Because once the Alabama got away, Bullock makes a point in his memoirs that many of his sources to Thomas Dudley's efforts dried up. And I'm going to turn my already identified spy in the embassy into a double agent.
Nice. I'm looking forward to reading that, actually. But you also just finished a good solid draft of
Silver Magic.
So
that is in the hands of an unnamed editor right now. And I'm patiently awaiting feedback.
Waiting your turn, right? So,
yes.
Okay.
Yes. So Silver is done, and other than unless some really major issues are found, I don't anticipate that, I will tell you, but they might be, and I will listen to objections. Other than brushing up and polishing, I think it's done.
Okay.
Tentatively aluminum magic.
Aluminum.
I have only the vaguest ideas, though, of what's going to happen with that.
You're kind of neck deep in now the historical, which is really
I've
cool.
gotten so deep into this now, but it's like, yeah. So
Cool. Well, I'm still in edits on my middle grade because I had a lot of other things that happened, like running a conference.
Yeah, just a few things here and there.
A couple of things. So I, but it's going along. It's going along. Working with my editor on that, and that's going along nicely. So hope it looks like it's going to be early next year when that one is ready. So there's that, and then. Yeah, that's pretty much all I'm working on writing-wise right now because it's all I have the bandwidth for. But I'll have some more time this next couple of months now that I'm not building and implementing a multi-day conference for other people. And, and we've had some kind people who reached out to thank us for running the conference, but it is a lot of work, and I'm a volunteer. So it takes up a lot of my time, and I don't get paid for it. So I better get some joy out of it, and I'm hopefully get some nice comments out of it, because that's my pay.
That's all you're going to get.
Yeah, that's all I'm going to get, yeah. So that's what I know on that. What you read?
Oh, I'm not reading anything that's terribly serious. See, since we talked last, I have read Crown of Slaves, David Weber, and Eric Flint. I have read Janissaries, Jerry Purnell. Janissaries is an old book, and now I'm going back to the 80s.
Is this just for entertainment?
This is just for entertainment. I've read Clan and Crown, which is the sequel to Janissaries, and I'm stopping there. There's 2 more books in the series, but I can tell Jerry's not going anywhere with it. They've been out for a long time, and he's not moving toward resolution. He died a few years ago, so it's not going to be resolved. So I'm not going to waste my time with the rest of them. I may pick them up later. And then I read. I did finish a book that I had started and then put aside, called "The Storm Before the Storm."
The Storm Before the Storm.
Before the Storm, okay. Which is the events in the Roman Empire leading up to the rise of Julius Caesar.
Yeah, that's not light reading.
It's incredibly interesting and relevant reading.
Ooh, okay, fair enough. That sounds. Yeah.
There are statements being made by Roman senators and politicians that you could present as a statement made by Nancy Pelosi or Mitch McConnell, and everybody would believe it.
Wow, interesting.
I mean, down to what are we going to do about the budget? How are we going?
So
in those days,
change, right?
In those days, is where are we going to get the money to keep up with the grain dole?
Right.
Well, the only way to get the money is to conquer more territory. Okay, but if we give the generals enough power to do that, then we're putting ourselves at risk, because Pompey is a demagogue who has no respect for the rule of law, the Senate, or the Constitution. Rome had what they considered a constitution. It's like, does this sound familiar?
Wow. Interesting. And that's called The Storm Before the Storm?
The Storm Before the Storm.
Who wrote it? Do you remember
I'd
who
have
wrote
to.
it? Is that a newer book or an older book?
It's several years old.
Okay.
I can pull it up in my library and tell you. Okay. I've forgotten the guy's name. I'm very bad about remembering authors.
That's why we keep a list of
I
the
do.
books, right?
I've got.
I take pictures of them.
I've got.
And and then I go in and do my little quick reviews on Goodreads, so I know that I've read them. But yeah, that's the only way I can remember. I did.
Mike Duncan.
The
Storm Before the Storm.
That name's
the beginning of the end of the Roman Republic.
Uh-oh.